Here in this small field just behind the main street of Creully, surrounded now in 1985 by modern bungalows and small houses, is the site where we established our first transmitter on liberated soil, our transmitter MCO, which the engineers called Mike Charlie Oboe. It arrived here in a 3-ton truck with all its equipment, and the BBC had provided us with a tent as a studio, so we rigged up the tent. And we came to do our first transmission from here and found, of course, that the noise of gunfire and the noise of aircraft was so great, and the tent was quite incapable of keeping out this sound, that we simply could not operate from here. We had to go off and find ourselves a studio.
The reports recorded by the war correspondents had to be transmitted back to London as quickly as possible for broadcast by the BBC. Within a fortnight of D-Day, Franck Gillard had established a makeshift studio in the tower of the Chateau de Creully.
It's from this room that the news of the progress of this great battle, on which so much depended, was given to the outside world in so many languages. And here on the walls are the photographs of some of my colleagues, the correspondents, who were broadcasting from this room. And we were presided over here. Well, first of all, here was our radio receiver, which kept us in touch with London. Here was the amplifier, and presided over by a photograph of the Commander-in-Chief, General Montgomery, with a handsome inscription. Very appropriate that he should be there, because out of this window, we look straight down on his own headquarters.
I remember that on June the 10th, 1944, Monty issued one of his famous orders of the day. Unfortunately, there was no means of broadcasting this in Monty's own voice because we had no recording, or I had no recording equipment whatever in Normandy. My own portable recorder was out of action. And I had to keep on saying to him, I'm terribly sorry, until I can get hold of a recording machine, it's impossible to get your message back in the voice to London. Then I ran into one of my colleagues who had a midget recorder that he said was working, and I got him to lend it to me for an hour, rushed straight off to this caravan, and Monty was there, and I said, at last, sir, we can record your order of the day. Terrific. So we sat down, and then I saw that even this recorder wasn't working, and he was very upset about this. He was very downcast. He desperately wanted the troops to hear his message in his own voice. And while we were sitting there together, I happened to see out of the corner of my eye that on his desk he had a telephone. And I said to him, you're not by any chance able to communicate directly with the War Office on that telephone, are you? And he said, yes, there's a radio telephone link through to London now, and I can talk to the War Office. So I said to him, would you mind if I spoke to the War Office? And he looked a bit astounded, but he said, well, I suppose so, if you want to, go ahead. So I picked up the telephone, and there was a click, and his operator at his own little switchboard outside said, sir. And I said, give me the War Office in London, please. There was a click. The next voice said, War Office. So I said, give me the BBC, please. So there was a click. The next voice said, BBC. And I said, this is Franck Gillard in Normandy. Give me the recording channels, please. Right, Mr. Gillard. Click. Next voice, recording. I said, this is Franck Gillard in Normandy. I've got General Montgomery here. I've got an urgent recording to make. Please give me a recording channel. Sorry, Mr. Gillard, they're all in use. And I said, well, too bad. One of them will have to be interrupted. Then he came back on the line and said, it's all clear, Mr. Gillard. And do you know, in less than 30 minutes, Monty was coming over the air from the BBC in London to all the troops in Normandy.
I am speaking from my headquarters in France. After 4 days of fighting, Allied armies have secured a good and firm lodgment area on the mainland of France. First, we must thank Almighty God for the success we have achieved and for giving us such a good beginning towards the full completion of our task. Second, we must pay a tribute to the Allied navies and air forces for their magnificent cooperation and support. Without it, we soldiers could have achieved nothing. Third, I want personally to congratulate every officer and man in the Allied armies on the splendid results of the last 4 days. British, Canadian, and American soldiers fighting gallantly side by side, have achieved a great success and have placed themselves in a good position from which to exploit this success. To every officer and man, whatever may be his rank or employment, I send my grateful thanks and my best wishes for the future. Much yet remains to be done, but together, you and I, we will do it, and we will see this thing through to the end. Good luck to you all.